Hello, friends. YouTube says we're live. Maybe. I think that notification sound was YouTube telling my email that I'm live. Okay. So, hello, friends, and welcome to the last 3 on Thursday. I'm going to adjust my microphone just a bit so it might get loud. I apologize. All right. So sorry for the adjustments. Welcome to 3 on Thursday. I am so glad that you're here, and I hope that today's cards inspire you. Today is all about the thank you card because Christmas has ended, Hanukkah starts today, Kwanzaa is today, Boxing Day, so many different things. Plus, of course, there's always birthdays that are coming up or have happened. You know, all the things. So many reasons for thank you cards. So I have a few here, and only one of them I think I would qualify as a Christmas thank you. The rest of them are winter or Pacific Northwest, which, as you may or may not know, is where I am. So let's go ahead and get started. So this one is cute, small-ish, easy to do. So this is a 4 1/4 by 4 1/4 card. It will fit in a regular envelope. And I have made an adjustment to the envelope so that when I put my card in, it does not slide all around. It stays in that spot. So as you can see here with this view, I have glued something here to keep the card from moving around in the envelope. You don't have to do that, but I will show you how to do that. So if you'd like to, you can. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna knock everything over here and just make a mess. Okay, so we of course have our envelope. We have a card base that is 4 1/4 by 8 1/2. Pretty simple. We have 2 pieces that are 4 by 4, white and balmy blue. We have 1 piece that is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4 white. And then of course our strip, this one's actually 3/8 instead of half, which is what I normally do, just to give a little bit more writing space. And yeah, make it real easy. So let's go ahead and get started. And then this piece is just a scrap piece. It's what I had left over when I cut my 4-inch piece. As you may or may not know, I keep a stack of white pieces that are 4 by 5 1/4, just pre-cut, ready to go, because I put them inside every single card, and they're great to use on the fronts of cards as well. So I just took one of those and cut this off of this piece. That's a smaller piece. So we will adjust. All right, so let's go ahead and, sorry, was a bit distracted right there. 4-inch piece, little strip. Let's grab our glue. Right, might as well do the easy things first. Now today's cards are using thank you sentiments from the My Small Business stamp set. And I've done this type of video before where I'm making thank you cards from this that aren't thank you for your business cards. Because yes, that is great. Thank you for everyone who has supported me by purchasing from me, both now as a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and previously as a Close to My Heart consultant. It makes me so happy and makes me able to continue to do these things. So, that's kind of the purpose behind this stamp set. But also, there's a ton of stuff on here. These two actually are the ones we're using today, but they're fantastic. Like, I love the fonts. I love this one. We're actually going to use this one twice, but you could... Actually, we're going to use both of them twice, so, Anyway, moving on. It's a great set, so make sure when you're looking at things that you're not necessarily pigeonholing what you're seeing. Think outside of the box or the shopping bag and see what we can come up with. So, moving on. We are going to take our glue piece and we are going to punch out of it. For my sample, I did use I think it's 3/4 inch punch because I couldn't find my 1/2 inch punch. Yep, 3/4. And 5/8. This is a 5/8. So, I'm actually going to use the 5/8 punch this time, and we are using this, so we're going to just punch. We're going to put this in and just punch anywhere. Just making sure that it's all the way in, because we are going to layer on top of it, but there's no reason why we can't punch that out first, right? Okay, so next up, and before I continue on, if you wanted to make the most out of your paper, if you want to not use this tiny strip, you could totally stamp on the inside instead of the strip, and then you'll have more of this paper to use, which you'll get the most out of, obviously, if you're using 12 by 12. Anyway, moving on. Before we glue these together, we have a couple things that we need to do. First up, we are going to take this snowflake Believe it or not, I have run myself out of room. Alright, One of a Kind is the stamp set that it comes from, and we are using both the stamps and the die cuts for this today. I don't know why my brain said I needed to speak more on that, and I don't really. So we're just going to kind of eyeball where we want this to be on our card. Does it need to be perfect? Absolutely not. Wherever you put it is fine. And then we're going to run this through real quick. Now I have taken, it's actually something I just started doing today, and I love how this is working. Where did my tool go? Okay. So I have, this is just an old lunch meat container, and I have obviously washed it, and I am just going to poke all my bits out over top of it. Alright, so try not to rip your paper when you pull up your washi. That was so difficult. It is not normally, but right then it was. Okay. Pop out your snowflake. I have no idea why this is being difficult right now. It was not this difficult making the sample. All right, we are done with our snowflake. Okay, we need our tiny snowflake. Now I'm going to make another change as well. So on this snowflake, I stamped it in Versamark, and you can still see it. It's very faint, but there is black with the thank you and the envelope. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and stamp it in black. So I'm going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black. And this is the middle-sized. Oh wait, that one doesn't fit as well on that one. It fits on that one. You know what, we'll try it on this one. And if it doesn't work, we can either flip it over. Ooh, that worked perfectly. We can either flip it over or use the bigger punch, but we did not need to use the bigger punch. So, okay. Now, where did all of my... All right, one second. I don't know where all of my papers went to stamp off, but that's okay. My scratch paper, that's the word. All right. I'm stamping off the edge of the envelope there. Then I'm going to essentially do the same thing on the front. Beautiful. Okay, our envelope is done. We need our sentiment. I do currently have this on 2 blocks because we use it differently later. And this is a stamp set, or a stamp rather, not a set, that I did cut apart so that I could use it separate or together. So the good news is I did only just one cut. Sorry, some of this has been off screen. Let me put a little marker, and it wouldn't be a Thursday video without Otis making an appearance. So I did one single cut. I did not clean up any of the cuts, so they just piece right back together like a jigsaw puzzle. Super simple, easy, nice, fabulous. All right, we're gonna stamp thank you just right at the bottom. Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna let this dry for a few moments. We do have another thing to do with it. While that is happening, let's go ahead and put together some of the stuff that we have already. So we can put our inside in. If you celebrate Christmas, I hope you had a good one. What was your favorite thing that happened? Mine, well, there were so many things. One of my favorite things was we got my granddaughter a little sit and push Jeep toy. So it's not motorized at all, it's just a ride-on toy. And it's branded, it is a Jeep. And the seat lifts up and you can stash all sorts of prizes and stuff in there. And we kept it outside. I didn't actually wrap that one. And it was almost time for them to go. So we went outside and she wanted to go riding on it. And so that's what we were doing. And see, that's not, I don't like how those poke out. And I already glued that on. This is why you do this beforehand. And so she was, we were walking on the sidewalk. It was raining. And she didn't want to go home. She didn't want to come back. We'd gone down probably 4 or 5 houses. And she did not want to turn around and come back. And it was just really funny. So I had to trick her by telling her, or convincing her to go across the street. So that we could go back towards our house. But it was the sweetest thing. And then Mom came out and she saw Mom and she turned around and started running the other direction because she did not want to go. Okay, so we're going to let those dry for a few seconds. We're going to move this out of the way. We're going to bring in our paper trimmer. Now you can either use the scoring blade that's on your paper trimmer, which is what I did on the sample, but you could also use a scoring stylus, like something like this. And you would just make sure that you are lined up straight. You can also use a ruler and a stylus and have your paper on something somewhat soft. You don't want something super soft. Alright, and we're just going to not quite come all the way down to the snowflake. And then the same for our sentiment, between the snowflake and the sentiment. And then below the sentiment and all the way down. Okay. And then kind of just figure out where this is on your board, and that it doesn't matter. We're just going to count. Oops. For me, it worked out to be 4 lines. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to do a line. It's going to be a little bit longer, obviously. at the top. Okay, we're going to come back to the center, and then you're going to do 4 lines the opposite direction. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then those lines. So, like I said, you can do this in the paper trimmer with the blade that comes on it. It's kind of hard to see, oops, right, because you have so much space on either side, but it can be done. I just wanted to show a different way to do that. Okay, so now we have some lines that you may or may not be able to see. Hopefully you can. And it just gives a little bit more kind of definition. So I have some of these gosh, brain stall there. So these are the strip foam pieces. I did actually cut them down. They are 6 inches. They come as 9 inches. I had a different project that I was working on and got a little bit kind of overzealous and cut a whole bunch of them down. A couple different packages. They are great for shaker cards. They are also great for things like this. Right, because we already know that I use more than I really need to, but I like my projects to be nice and stable. Okay, so let's go ahead and take the backing off of these. The nice thing about doing the whole outside is that you don't have to peel all of the pieces on the inside, just 1 or 2. If you have something cut out, obviously you want to do something kind of the ones closest. So we'll call it good at that. Nothing's going to fall out because they're all going to be contained. Even if the backers do come off, they are going to be contained. I managed to get a mark on the edge there. I am not happy with myself. Now we're just going to center this. Okay, and these little inside pieces, they are not popped up, and that's okay, because we're going to come back over here to this one. We're going to add our larger piece on here. Okay. And then we are going to put some foam on here. And we are going to do this 2 layers of foam so that it pops up. if you do just one, it is the exact same height as our other white paper. And we want it to be just a smidge taller than that. So if you wanted to mail this card, I would maybe not pop up your white square and only pop up your snowflake so that you don't have to pay any extra on the postage. Or pay extra on the postage and be okay with that. That works too. Alright, so we are just going to line this up. Just like that. And then you can see some color. If you're looking straight down like you are, you can see a little bit of color, but not a whole lot. But as soon as you have any angle, you can see that blue pop through. And it's pretty nifty, I think. And that, my friends, is card number 1. So you'll have to tell me which snowflake you like better. I actually think I do like this one better than this one. I know I have my reason for this, but I think even all said and done, I think I like this one better. But you tell me, which one do you like better? Alright, next up we have a 2-for-1. And I am loving this. How fun is this? Right, so this was the original card. I was like, oh, we can easily do something with that. And so, card number 2, both simple, both fabulous. So you can make 4 cards with 3 pieces of 6x6 paper. If you don't want to do your envelope flaps, you can do 4 cards with 2 pieces of the paper. And then let me show you something else. With making 4 cards, not counting the envelope cutoffs, this is the extent of our scraps. That's it. That's it. How wonderful is that? I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Probably make another card at some point. Not today. But let me tell you what you need to do. So you're going to take your 2 6x6 pieces and you are going to cut them into 2 pieces that are 4x6. No, they are not 4x6. They are 3 3/4 by 6. Yep. Okay. Let me just grab out some more of that paper and I can show you. You know what? I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab this snowflake paper and show you with it. Okay. So, oh, we need 3 pieces. My bad. Actually, I'm going to show you with 2 pieces and not do the envelopes. But I'll tell you what the 3rd piece would be. Alright, so take 2 pieces. These 2 you're going to cut the exact same to start with. So we need 3 3/4, by 6. Right? And then we need 3 3/4 by 5. Okay? So we have 2 card fronts. These 2 are extras. These are part of those scraps that I showed you. Then you're going to take one of these pieces and you are going to cut this to 4 inches. This is another of those scraps that I showed you. Then you're going to rotate this back and you're going to cut 4 pieces that are 1/2 inch by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is another of those scraps that I showed you. Okay, so this piece, if you are not doing envelopes, this is scrap. If you are doing envelopes, cut this to 2 inches or whatever your envelope flap is. I always tell you measure first. And then if you are doing envelopes, your third piece of 6 by 6 is going to be cut into 3 more envelope flaps. Okay? Hence, if you don't want to do the envelopes and just stamp on them, then you can get 4 cards from 2 sheets. All right. Let's do this. Okay. I am going to go back to the other paper because that is the stuff that I have out. So just to show you, I have 2 envelopes. I did not show you something. I'll come back to, okay, hold on. I'll tell you what I have and then I'll go back to it. So I have 2 card bases. I have 1 card front, right, because I've already used one for the sample. I have 2 1/2 inch by 4 for the insides. And I have 2 pieces for the envelope. And then I have 4 pieces that are 4 by 5 1/4. Okay. You know what? I'll do the other thing at the end. Let's do our envelopes first. I'll do it at the end of these ones. All right, I don't want to go back and forth too much and cause confusion. But what I forgot to show on the other one, on the first card, was the adjusting of the envelope. So I can easily come back and do that. Oh, the other piece I have a tiny piece of crumb cake. Just a scrap. Something to use for the trunk. So you could use any brown at all, or you can use white and then use some ink and do some blending brushes on it and have it that way. And if you wanted to one up it one more, you could even run your scrap through an embossing folder. We're not going to do that today. All right, we're going to take 2 of these and add our inside. Oops. know why I was doing that. Okay, those are ready to go inside. Set them aside. All right, so we're going to take one of these. We're going to need another one. So we are going to take this. We're going to take just a little snippet of glue. If you have a repositionable, definitely use that, because we just want to tack this down for a few seconds. Well, maybe a few more than a few seconds, but okay. Then we are going to take the largest tree from the Peaceful Evergreens dies, and we're going to cut that out from the center. Right, you want it to be as centered as you can possibly get it. Okay, and we're going to run this through our machine. Okay, so this is going to give us 2 trees. This tree I'm not going to use for this, so you can keep it with your stamp set and use it at another time. We're going to use this on a different card, but before we go there, we're going to go ahead and take this off, and we are done die cutting. We're going to take this off. When you run it through the embossing machine, it likes to stay on. Okay. Then you're going to take this piece and line it up over your other piece. And then you're going to take a pencil, and we're going to lightly draw the outline of kind of the center-ish of the tree. Okay, so that is what we did. And then we are going to come back to our thank you, and we are going to have them be 2 separate blocks again. Okay. So we're going to take our thank, and let me grab the card, and we're going to have the T, the straight of the T, kind of come through here. Okay. Bring back in the Memento ink. Perfect. And then you, and we are going to just kind of put it down here wherever makes us happy. Obviously, we want the majority of it within that outline that we did. Okay. Close that up. We're going to let that dry. And now we need to grab another 4 by 5 1/4 piece. Because I had totally forgotten about the making of the what is that called? Whatever that is. You know what I mean. So that we could make sure we have our stuff stamped in the right spot. This is Mossy Meadow ink. And the other thank you, which I also cut apart so that it was all on one line instead of stacked. And we're just going to center this at the bottom. Beautiful. And we're done stamping for this card. These cards, rather. Okay. So, let's grab our tree and add our trunk. Actually going to set this on here. This is not glued down. I just kind of want to have it centered on my paper and kind of bring this in so that it is also centered. Okay, voila. Now we are going to start adding some foam. Oh gosh, my brain just stopped working. So this again is something that you could use dimensionals for if you would rather. These foam pieces are super easy to use. So I'm just using, as you can see, the kind of offcuts onto our tree. And then I'm going to bring in our other tree. I'm going to add some more on here also, but let's do all the long pieces first. It just helps to conserve when you're using them like this, right? Use the long pieces on the long straight sides, and then use your short pieces to fill in the gaps, or the other things that also need to be popped. Okay. So I'm just gonna cut that in half. I guess I could have made that a little bit longer, but this is how this worked out. All right, before we move on to more tape, let's bring back in, I know I'm kind of bouncing all over everywhere, but I needed this to dry, and we need some more long pieces, so let's erase our marks now that this is dry. And then we can finish all of our long pieces and then move on to any of the short pieces that we might need. Right, because we may not need any more short pieces after we're done. We probably will, but this one there. That piece is done. All right, it's all about being strategic. Now the other thing that you could do if you wanted is with this card is you could make it into a shaker card. All right, we are done with all of our long pieces. So let's just finish up the short pieces that we need. Oh. And voila. Okay, so we have two white pieces that have stamping on them that are popped up on foam. We have our Christmas tree cutted piece that has this cut out, and our Christmas tree itself that has been both popped up as well. And we even still have some left over. Okay, now let's fold and burnish our cardstock. These are 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. We'll do the insides first. I tend to find that it's actually easier when you do them first, because then the card base doesn't want to flip nearly as much. Right, because it often, at least for me, becomes front heavy, right, when you add on the different layers on the front, and so it wants to lay on the desktop. Okay, and now we are ready for the fronts. And remember, no matter what foam tape you use, if you give it a burnish before you, try to pull the backing off, generally speaking, it will then release easier. Of course, I say that and it shows quite the opposite, but generally that is the case. All right, so our thank you in the center goes into the center. And then our negative space Christmas tree, that's what we'll call it to differentiate between the two. And then just get that all finished. This is time consuming, I do apologize. But this is a great way to get so many cards that are super cute. So essentially you can get a boatload of them from just half a sheet of DSP. So it doesn't have to be this one, it can be anything. I chose this one because it was Christmassy. Needed some thank you cards. Then we're just going to center this on the white piece. And card number 1 is done. Okay, let's come over here to card number 2. Give everything a good press first. See if that helps us in our cause. Ouch. Try not to stab yourself. It's usually, you know, a good thing to do, to not do. It's good to avoid not good to hurt yourself while crafting. Although, one might say, are you even crafting if you haven't hurt yourself? It's kind of a weird thought process to go on. And now our tree. Now if you want, you can do some smaller pieces of foam to go on these little branches that stick out. Up to you. Whatever makes your heart and your head okay with each other's process. And then we're just going to center this. And voila. Then we finish trimming our envelopes and then we are done. Ouch. How about that? Four cards, 3 sheets of 6x6 papers. I think they're super adorable. Okay. Let's back up a smidge here to our card here. And remember, I told you that I had glued a piece in here so that the card doesn't move. So what you want to do is make sure that your piece that you glue in is smaller than your card so you still have room. Okay, and you want to make sure that it is not longer than the inside edge of the envelope. Okay, so I need to trim this one just a little bit. I'm just going to use my scissors and just snip. It doesn't have to be perfect because nobody's going to see this. Right, so then you're going to put glue. It can be any glue. Liquid glue works the easiest because it gives you the movability that a dried tape does not. So if you want to be ideal, glue down the side that will have your stamp, your postage stamp on it. Open up your envelope. Try not to touch anywhere until you get it in, and then slide that down into the corner. And then just give it a press. And so now my card fits in without sliding around. Voila. And you can make it be a little bit smaller if you have a lot of dimension like this one kind of does. You can make it even smaller than we did. So this piece was approximately Looks like it was about 1.5. Right, I should maybe have cut it down a smidge, but as you saw, the card fit in. If you want to have a little bit more space on the envelope, you could cut it down to an inch or 3/4 of an inch. All right, last card. And this one is my favorite. And it's being saved to last because it's messy, not because it's my favorite. But we have this. And then when we open it up, we have this. Right? Super fun. So, slimline card. You can get the card from the majority of the card from one sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Obviously, the white is a different cardstock, so I'm using crumb cake and white. And then this piece is a scrap piece. So this is a number 10 envelope. And just to give you an idea, if you came from Close to My Heart, this is the slimline envelope that you're used to. This is a number 9. Which is similar, but not quite the same as a number 10. So this envelope is a number 10, and I did not grab an envelope for this. But just to kind of give you a size reference, while they are the same length, there is a different size. And obviously I'm hand doing this one. And even still, that is the envelope difference. So it is quite a big difference, comparatively speaking. So the number 10 envelopes, this is the same size envelope that your bills come in and whatnot. This is just a box that I have. And so you can see they are 4 1/8 by 9.5, which is a decent size. So I chose to stick with 8.5 to get the most out of my paper. Okay, so we have 8.5 by 7. Oh gosh. Eight and a half by 7.5, scored at 3 3/4. Yep. Okay, and then our front and our white are actually 2 different sizes because I had white insides pre-cut for the slimline cards. So it's a little bit smaller already, and then I changed it a little bit more. So we have 3.5 by 8 1/4. This one is going to be 3 1/4, and that was 3 1/4 is what it was already pre-cut to, because previously we were used to 3.5. So it was already pre-cut to 3 1/4. So I wanted to make that work with what we are working with here. And so I wanted the gap around to be the same size. So then I cut this down to 8 inches to make it an even border. Okay. And then this is a scrap. It is 1 inch by something. We're going to cut it down and we'll get to that part here in a little bit. Okay, so let's grab these pieces. And let's get to stamping. Okay, we are using again, Peaceful Evergreens for all of our trees, and we're going to use all 3 of them. Okay, we need our scratch paper and our Mossy Meadows ink. We are going to start with our largest tree. And when we stamp it, we want to come near to the top, and we're not quite all the way at the edge of our piece. And then we are going to lift, adjust our paper, lower our stamp a little bit, and stamp again. There is no magical mathematical number on which I can give you on where to stamp these things. It's just kind of what makes your heart happy. Okay. And then we're going to stamp one more time. We're only going to do half the tree, so I just inked up half of it. And we're just going to do right here along the edge. Okay. Okay, next up, we're going to do our tall skinny tree. And we're going to do that same process. We're going to stamp once and move, slightly lower, and stamp again. Okay. And let's see. We're going to go a little bit lower, stamp once, move, lower, and stamp again. And then one more time with the short tree. I'm trying to add some variety to the heights of the trees here. And I think I'm going to add some more ink and do this one dark. And just stamp right over. If it doesn't line up, that's okay-ish. You know what? Let's flip over to the other side and try that again, because that wasn't okay-ish. Doing the exact same process that we just went through. And yes, I did just re-ink that because I did stamp off the side and I didn't want to have a harsh line, which I'm not quite sure how I managed to avoid before. But clearly I did. Okay. Wonderful. perfect. Set it aside, let it to dry. Do our inside piece, and do one with the big guy. And then the tall guy. So I'm going to go a little bit shorter with some space, and then a second stamp shorter still in the middle. Okay. And then our envelope. And we'll go with, oh no. Okay, good. My ink pad slid underneath the cards that we'd already done. Alright, just right down in the bottom corner. Alright, envelope done. Now we bring in our scrap piece and the word thank you. We're stamped fairly close to the right side, but leaving enough space to create a banner end. Alright, that is all of our stamping for today. Exciting, right? So let's create that banner end. And then let's kind of eyeball how we want this. So I think right about there. And slide it off my desk so I can pick it up, and then just trim that. Okay. Set this aside. We are going to bring in the silicone craft mat and a blending brush, as well as a block and some crumb cake ink. I'm using the block to pick up ink for a couple reasons. One, if I've used a different color on my brush, that way it does not transfer unintentionally over to my ink pad. And two, it controls the amount of ink that I pick up. So I'm not oversaturating my brush and therefore using too much ink. Alright, so we have distressed our sentiment, and then we're going to come in and manage to be a little bit heavier than we wanted on that spot. Just go through and add some distressing. Alright, so get all that ink off. Beautiful. And then let's also grab our white, and we're just going to use what's on the brush. We're not going to add any more, and we're not going to do a super deep blend. We just want to soften the edges. And using the silicone mat means that I can pick up the ink off of the mat. So that means I'll be able to use more that might have been wasted previously if I had done this on paper instead of the silicone sheet. Okay. That needs to be washed. This needs to be closed. Okay, now I'm going to move some things so they are out of the way. And we are going to take a block, a different block. We are going to take some white ink, a little bit of water, and I could use this pen, but I'm not going to. I am going to use this fan brush. Okay, so I am going to add a drop of white ink. It's a very thick ink, by the way, in case you can't tell. Right? It's very, very thick. And just in case there's some ink on my brush, which it does look like there is, I'm just going to unscrew that and add a little bit of water. At least I think I'm going to. And then it's going to pour out too much like it did earlier. Too much. Gosh darn it. Okay, good news is I still have my washcloth here. So I'm just going to pick up some of that water. And I maybe picked up too much of that water, and that's okay, because I can always add a little bit more. I'm going to get my brush wet, and then I'm going to mix in. Now, this is a cheapy fan brush. It's not a spendy one, so it splits pretty instantly as soon as it gets wet. It did come in a pack that I got from the dollar store, Dollar Tree. So we have our white ink that I now just smeared on the table. We are loading up our brush, and then we're going to use something hard, scissors or your bone folder. And you're going to pick up the ink and splatter it. As you can see, this is a bit of a mess. So let's So I'm just tapping on here because that was giving me splatters all over my desk. Kind of like what I wanted. My desk looks like what I want my paper to look like. There are some spots on my paper. Okay, so if you don't have the spots that you would like, then what you can do, first let's wipe this up real quick. You could add a little bit more water and then do that again. One of the possibilities of happening is that your white dots will pick up the Mossy Meadows ink and they will become slightly green snow flurries. So I'm just going to take a white gel pen and I'm just going to kind of put dots all over everywhere. Not just on the trees, I want some in the sky as well. Right, because oftentimes when it is snowing, the snow that is closest to you looks like it's bigger snowflakes. Right, so that is why you need a variety of sizes. Now, if you are using the gel pen, do keep in mind it is still possible for that green ink to come up through. However, because of the ink parameters, I don't know what to call it, the gel ink dries kind of hard. So you can easily color over it again, and generally speaking, that second layer will not pull up the ink color. Okay, so we have some good varieties. This one here kind of turned green, so I'm going to add some more ink to it. You do want to make sure they are dry before you do a second coat of that ink. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish, and then if we want to, we can come back and add some more. So let's set this aside and start the rest of the process. So we have our card base. Fold and burnish that. We have our inside pieces. Originally, I was going to put the sentiment on the front of the card, and I couldn't make myself put it on the front. I liked this scene so much that I didn't want to interrupt it with a sentiment. I mean, even if it's the best sentiment in the world, I didn't want to. So I put it on the inside. Okay, so before we attach this to the front, we are going to use some twine. And we're just going to wrap this 3 times. And you can tie it in a bow or in a knot, whichever you would prefer. I've showed you in the past that if you have them, using reverse tweezers helps so much in tying bows. It's fabulous. It really is. Okay. Thought I messed up there for a second. And then attach this on the front. I do believe I said, but in case I didn't, the ink that we used for the edges for the distressing is Crumb Cake ink. And just like that. So yeah, if you wanted to, you could easily add a few more snowflakes, or just leave it as it is. Hopefully you guys like this card and the other cards that we've done today. Pull those back in. And of course our 4-pack of thank you cards. So thank you so much for all of the time that you have spent with me. Sorry, I got distracted. Hi Rhonda, sorry I didn't see you come in. Thank you for all the time you spent watching my videos. I hope you continue to watch them. I will have more videos that come out in the future, but there will not be any more 3 on Thursday classes. So thank you again for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like the video, if you could give it a thumbs up, I would certainly appreciate that, and maybe even share with some friends. So thank you all, and I will see you with all of the new things coming up. Talk to you later. Bye.